can actually help you. And with Bo playing the offside a lot for the Avalanche lately, it really doesn't feel like coincidence. Knowing that the Sabres specifically need somebody to play on the right side of that defense. It's like, look, we could just be making this up here, but the AGM is there for multiple games. A lot of those trips, Eric, you can confirm this, but a lot of those trips, a guy comes in, he's into a city, he's out of a city. He's onto it. This guy's going to hang around. He's going to watch multiple games of the same. I mean, come on.
Does happen.
And for an AGM, I'm sorry, but that raises the eyebrows more than a scout that's there from a team for one game and then he's gone.
Yeah.
That to me I think is interesting. Byram's playing on the right side. The needs for both organizations fit. And they have each guy is kind of an extra guy.
Got a question for you guys. At the age of 18, How many pull-ups could you do?
God.
6.
It's 4 more than me.
1. I have spaghetti arms.
1 is more than the guy we're about to talk about. So
Stop.
My T-Rex arms aided me greatly. I also didn't have
to pull so far.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have all the weight, so
not many.
Maybe 7, dude.
Not many, but I've never been a pull-up guy. Not many back then. Then my first year pro separated my shoulder, where it's like, and then since then after that it was like this, and it was like, I would show up in camp in shape, but I couldn't do the pull-up contest, because I would be like 0. You know what I mean? Like Casey Mittelstadt.
Thankfully, pull-ups do not a pro hockey player make. The Avs are looking for a big splash to solve their 2C problem, potentially not just this year, but going forward. Casey Mittelstadt has broken out over the past couple of years. The offensive production certainly is there in his game. He's an expiring RFA at the end of this year. Only $2.5 million, so not particularly expensive for this cup run. Can they realistically try and do this in season, or is this more of this could be a off-season thing?
I think the only way this would make sense is if they have 2 moves in place. And this is a Byram deal for Mittelstadt, and then they have a deal.
The backfill Byram.
Yeah, for a Hanifin or a Tanev.
Okay.
On the backside of it. That's the only way that it makes sense to me. So I guess we'll live in the world where they do decide to make that move.
Sure.
Otherwise, there's no point in having the conversation.
Yeah.
Mittelstadt the breakout's real. He's good. He's explosive. He's dynamic. He's not a number 1 center, but he's a good player. He's, he's a catalyst for the offense around him, but can score a little bit of the goals as well. He's not as natural a goal scorer as I think I'd like. My reservation with him is probably more that I think he is. I worry that if he gets around Chushkin and Lehkonen,
looking for a finisher on that line.
Exactly. That you really don't have a really natural goal scorer, because Nichushkin scores a lot of his goals right around the net.
Yep.
Which is fine. When you have a playmaker of Mittelstadt's caliber, you expect that he could probably
get the puck to the place it needs to be. Yeah.
Get that puck in those areas. So it's not like it would be a bad combination, but like the very, very minor concern that I would have. But otherwise, I don't really know what the downside here is. He's going to get paid in the offseason, but he's not going to get paid so much that you can't operate around it. And at 24, 25 years old, you sign him to a 5-year deal, you're kind of done with this for the next
foreseeable future.
5 years, I guess. The 2C thing stops being something you have to do every single season and you're bleeding assets to go do. Yeah, you use a big asset in Byram, but otherwise you go and get a guy that he fits your play style. He makes you better, and he's got the kind of production, and he's shown the skill on his own, but the skill to play with skill. He kind of just puts a bow on your entire forward core for this season, and you just say, great, for the foreseeable future, our
top 6 is
our center depth goes McKinnon, Mittelstadt, and
Colton.
Ross Colton.
True.
It's pretty good. You have at least 3 years of that until Colton needs a new contract. Then you figure it out.
A long way away.
You figure it out from there, because you signed Taves, you signed Makar. Gerard continues to be under contract.
Yep.
So your top 3 guys on your defense are all on deals that you're continuing to be happy with. you just figure you're at that point you're filling in holes.
Yep.
And instead of trying to build a dam to block a river, it's just leaks at that point. It's Band-Aids. You're comfortable there. You take care of your biggest roster need all at one time. You get a guy that's young that you can just continue to build around.
The 25 years old is what really appeals to me in Mittelstadt. Honestly, he'd be highest on my list if I believed it was most realistic.
Sure.
He'd be above a want for Henrique if I believed it was realistic. And so I think that's the concern is Buffalo interested in dealing with Colorado? Because there is upside for a 25-year-old player and, arbitration eligible RFA this summer, and Avs would get first crack at negotiating a new contract. Those negotiations become easier if you win a cup. And I think that that's something that he could be sold on as a player wanting to grow here because there's so much room to grow. The stylistic fit makes some of the most sense of the centers we've talked about. Good speed, good motor, great possession player, above average shooting percentage. You're not as worried about the offensive contributions the way we've had some of that concern with the other players here. And I know we've talked about scouts and things in attendance at game, but Buffalo Sabres assistant GM has been coming to home games. It was probably pre-planned. I don't want to stoke that fire too much.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, right?
But he's been there the last 2 home games. I would love it to keep the Mittelstadt dream alive. It could be just purely wishful thinking.
Bo's played pretty well the last couple games, so.
Bo knows.
Yeah, I mean, is what it comes down to. And no, sometimes it is. They're there for a reason, right? It's not just coincidence. You're there for that purpose. You'll just never know because they'll never tell you. But me, it comes down to I like the player. I like the fit. I don't have it in front of me, but do you have arb rights this summer?
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes a little bit of he's playing a big role in Buffalo. He's got some decent stats. He will finish with good stats. His arb case, at the day, all comes down to his arb case. Can you afford him? And you know what I mean? Can you afford it if you're the Avs? You know what I mean? I think it comes down to the projections, and I don't have that in front of me. I'm not the greatest cap guy in the world. I'm actually terrible.
You should put him in the $6 to $7 million range.
Yeah, so
roughly.
So right at 6.5.
Right. Okay. So you have to do the gymnastics now, where Bo, you're leaving Bo. This is part of you're right. You said you're getting rid of that. Is that an in-season trade? Is that a summer thing? Right. You know what I mean? And then it's just I don't know projection wise how does that work? What can you because like you said, it's tied into Byram somewhere somehow, right? I mean, it would have to be.
So that's just shy of $4 million of it. At least for the first year.
Well, exactly. So that's. I know what you're saying, and I'm like you. That's what I said about Devontae's, right? Sign and figure out later. I'm always about figure out later. But I think you have to have a little bit of projections just to see, can this work? And can we go get another defenseman that kind of fits those projections where we're not weakening ourselves? And I agree with you. I love Sammy, so it's then you have 3 Ds anyway that are high-end Ds, So it's just a matter of where do you think the arb case is and where do you think it fits? And where does that leave you with that hole for Bo,
I play up my dislike of Casey Mittelstadt a lot. I think he actually would be a very good fit in Colorado on the 2C line. But my one concern that I do have, this is a guy who is on this lighter side. He's not a particularly strength-built player.
Nope.
And he's played in Buffalo his whole career, which means you have no idea what he is in the NHL playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely are. It's a total crapshoot as to how does he handle the moment.
Yep.
How does he handle expectation?
I'll add to that is, and I'm careful since last year because I used to always say oh God, I bet you this guy can't play in the playoffs, can't elevate his game. I'm not saying that about Casey Mittelstadt. I'm saying we don't know because he's never been in those situations, right? But I'm careful more now since last year because I've said that about Jack Eichel. I don't know.
And
when a push comes to shove,
it out.
and then you know what? He was outstanding in the playoffs, so I ate my words. You know what I mean? And I don't know the guy. I'm saying I like the player. I just didn't think he was going to be able to elevate his game and to be there down because it is a different animal the postseason. So Mittelstadt, I would instead of saying that because I've learned my lesson, I'd be to make sure that he is good. You know, could he elevate his game? I think he could. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like still a question mark because you don't know. He's never done it.
Lots to prove.
Lots of people have never done it either.
Yep.
Right. So, but there's a question mark there. You know.
So, I don't know how realistic getting this move done is.
I don't know.
But if it's something that is on the table, the Avs should be working hard on it.
Yeah, and normally, you know, a lot of these conversations, like a lot of the Boone Jenner stuff that Avs fans have weirdly obsessed over for the last couple of years.
I don't.
It's been like, why does Columbus want to move him? Why would they do that? And in
no sense.
In Buffalo's case, there's clear answers here.
Yep.
There's a clear motivation. You would understand why they don't want to pay him $6.5 million for the foreseeable future.
Already paying Cousins and Thompson.
You've paid Tage Thompson. You've paid Dylan Cousins. You've paid Rasmus Dahlin. You've paid Owen Power. You're hoping for an excuse to pay Devin Levi someday. You've got wings out the wazoo coming up in your system.
Yep.
You've got a couple of great, really good centers that you're excited about coming up in your system. And you're hopeful that Dylan Cousins gets back to being that guy too.
And you paid Samuelson.
You've got an injured D all the time.
True.
And you need one more good young top four guy that can actually help you. And with Bo playing the offside a lot for the Avalanche lately, it really doesn't feel like coincidence. Knowing that the Sabres specifically need somebody to play on the right side of that defense. It's like, look, we could just be making this up here, but the AGM is there for multiple games. A lot of those trips, Eric, you can confirm this, but a lot of those trips, a guy comes in, he's into a city, he's out of a city, he's onto it. This guy's going to hang around, he's going to watch multiple games of the same. I mean, come on.
Does happen.
And for an AGM, I'm sorry, but that raises the eyebrows more than a scout that's there from a team for one game and then he's gone.
Yeah.
That to me I think is interesting. Byram's playing on the right side. The needs for both organizations fit, and they have each guy is kind of an extra guy at their positions. Where in a perfect world, you'd love to be able to pay them long term and keep them and whatever.
Yep.
But smarter financial decision for both teams. Balance your roster.
Unfortunately, I think it's probably a pipe dream in season, but
definitely, I think so.
It's tricky
in season. I think it's probably too bold. But come June 25th or whatever, the day after the Stanley Cup is awarded, those are two teams that should just be stalking each other's social media, like the full gamut of hey, I'm in your business.
Well, you know what they say. Fortune favors the bold. So maybe that's the play.
Scared money don't make money.
And there you go. There it is. Sometimes you got to make the splashy move.
Look, be bold and mighty forces will aid you.
I don't have any more in the bag.
Me neither. That's all I got.
Casey Mittelstadt could be that guy. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see for Colorado. We do have a couple more players still to come, so keep it locked to this playlist, or at very least, the DNVR Sports YouTube account. Give us a subscribe and watch more videos.